Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management, a weekly conversation with area leaders about how to persevere during uncertain times. Now here's your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. This program is brought to you by Worth Wealth Management. Always good to have you listening along. Always good to hear your comments back when we're finished with the show, or sometimes as you're driving down the road, send me a note. Like to hear those as well. Our guest today is Jan Johnson, and Jan is heading up CASA of the High Plains. And Jan, it's good to have you here talking about a program that has been, over the years, a very effective program, but over the last couple of years, been in a rebuilding phase. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Gary. I'm really pleased to be here.
So let's talk about, first off, you. How did you get involved with CASA?
A very roundabout series of events. What directly led me into this position was probably my nonprofit management. I had run a small grocery store in Brewster, Kansas, Brewster Grocery. So there's my plug for that outfit. And it was a retail store, community owned, that was struggling, and just figured out how to get it up to financial sustenance to where it was running well as a standalone business instead of running on local donations on a fairly regular basis, to where it was financially sustainable, and got the board spun up into basically how to manage the grocery store itself. And that took me out of play as the manager of the grocery store. And so they've been running as board managed grocery store since. So it's been, I want to say, coming on 5 years, and they are doing great out there.
And so you had a chance to jump into CASA, and they've experienced some challenges along the way as a group. You took over about, let's say it's about a year ago. What's been the toughest challenge of your first year?
It's been a combination. So the CASA program has been running since '89 here in Hays, and it was very well run for quite a while. 2020 really kicked this program in the teeth as far as its service to kids. We went, everything was, done in person, and COVID certainly took care of that. So changing over from service being in person, and of course, the large number of advocates at that time were of the high risk age. And so maybe dropped out of advocacy because of that, and because of lack of program progress. So rebuilding the number of advocates to serve, acquiring cases, and then we had a series of 2 or 3 changeovers in executive directors. In tandem with all that, it just kind of led to a dormancy in the program. It's not that it didn't exist anymore. There was service to kids. It was just a very low numbers. So just getting spun up in the child advocacy system, getting educated with all the other players in the system, the judges, the attorneys, DCF, St. Francis, how to go about acquiring cases for our program, and reestablishing a connection with the volunteers that were in existence that had ridden through all the hard times. We've got some great gals, and actually got in another advocate at the same time that I was getting spun up and trained myself. So one other advocate and myself were both certified in October last year. So we now have 5.
Jan, let's talk about something kind of maybe in general, maybe back up a little bit. CASA is what? You hear the term, it's you're dealing with children in the court system, but what exactly does CASA do?
So CASA, CASA, stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. So the difference in our program and any other program that you're going to deal with is it was created by a judge. And so the whole point of it is to come up with a bigger picture of what's involved with the child situation. So in our reports, we will present everything that we've discovered from the families, from foster families, from talking with the child themselves, from talking with doctors, teachers, whoever else might be involved, and coming up with a bigger picture to present not only to the judge in our court report, but to the other attorneys, parents' attorneys, guardian ad litems, and St. Francis Ministries as well. So everyone has the broad picture of what's going on. And so that is all to come to a faster conclusion and the best conclusion for this child in need of care.
Well, even from an outsider, the court system can be a challenging system no matter where you are. So whether
Yes.
you have an attorney or something else, that helps. But you've taken that and gone to kids to be involved with that. What is the age group?
It's everything from newborns to technically the kids age out at age 18. And so even for the kids that are aging out, there's processes and plans and services that are available.
And do you provide attorneys or do you provide assistance in finding attorneys?
So CASA doesn't do any providing of services. So that is one thing that's definitely different with our group. We don't provide services and we don't provide care for the kids. We set up those connections and we highlight the spots where there might be a gap in those connections. And so just to make the court aware and the other parties aware of the gaps and of what we see might be the need to get those gaps filled.
I know you work with a group of volunteers. How has that been to find volunteers to be able to help with this? Because it looked to me to be one of those things, while it sounds like, okay, well, get these people together, finding the right people that have the knowledge of that is not only challenging, but probably one of those things that you get the right people and it's like, it can make a real difference in a child's life.
Absolutely. And I have seen firsthand just in the 3 months that we've been working cases. We've closed out 3 of the cases that we've been assigned to in 3 months. And that's, I think, markedly better than the average. So I don't want to make that sound too shiny. It doesn't typically happen that way, but I know CASA's assigned to cases statistically speed things up as far as permanency for the kid. But definitely here in the 23rd Judicial District. But to get advocates in, there's a lot of people with the right heart and there's a lot of people with the right intention. But as far as having, the chops and the nerve to really follow through on this, it is not for everyone. I have had, since I've been on, probably maybe 15 odd general inquiries into the process. As soon as I send back everything that's involved, it's 7 years background check. It's 40 hours of training that spreads out over 6 weeks. It's, it's more than a year's commitment. I mean, we want people that will sign on with the case and stick with that case until it's finished. I haven't had a single other person follow through. It's not a lighthearted commitment, and it's not fun. It's incredibly gratifying, but it's not a good time.
One of the things I know that it does take is maybe a bigger organization to help. Is there a bigger organization? Because you represent counties in northwest Kansas, I think, for the most part. What about connections with others across the state and across the country? Is there a way to tie that in?
There is a national CASA program, and at the national level, it's called CASA GAL. It's CASA Guardian Ad Litem. In the state of Kansas, there is a Kansas state program, and it is just CASA in this state. So there is a little bit of structure with that, but the pros and cons of it is each program in Kansas is a standalone 501c3. So one of the pros to that is we don't get any national or state direct funding. We have to come up with our own funding. So that saves us because we don't end up relying on that funding. So we find our own. So each one is a standalone business. And there is some structure and amenities that come with being part of the CASA program. But for the most part, as far as funding, I'm figuring out how we need to do it on our own. So that's one of the downfalls. But within it, the 23rd Judicial District, one of the fun parts about rebuilding this program is I'm getting to work directly with these parties and see how we want to do it.
Well, that is interesting because on the other side, there's courts, there's attorneys. Are they helping you? Do they say, boy, it's nice to have somebody helping guide these kids through the program? Because most of these kids don't have family support, would be my guess. They just need help getting through the program. Somehow they got into this court system and now they need help. Are you getting some support from the other side of it, the court specifically?
Oh, huge. Absolutely. Our 4 judges in particular in this, 5 judges, um, we had a sit-down conference with Chief Judge Brown, Magistrate Judge Biggie, and Magistrate Judge Flax. They did a sit-down meeting with all of our advocates on what they wanted to see in court reports, how to testify in court, should we be called, how to, stick to just the facts, how to write things out. So our court system in the 23rd is absolutely invested in making this CASA program be successful and serve the best that it can. I've spoken with the Ellis County Bar Association. They asked me to speak. They've, given a donation to our program. They've given me some feedback on what they like, what hasn't worked quite so well for them in the past. I've met with DCF and St. Francis as well, gone to their team meetings, had those discussions as well. I'm interested in creating not just what I want to do for the CASA program, me and the board here, but what 23rd Judicial District, what's going to work best for us as a judicial district, what this program can do to serve and get the point across and speed things up for the benefit of these kids and the benefit of the families as well.
Now you have a board and some others. Who are the people that volunteer, and who are the people that are successful at being a part of that? Are they former attorneys, family members?
So our board is pretty widespread. We have folks that work at the hospital. We've got an accountant that works for an accounting firm here in town. We've got a number of law enforcement. And I've got a great gal that's just, she's awesome. She's been a board member on a number of things, and she's fantastic at fundraising. In particular, what I'm looking at, we need to increase on our board is folks at Savvy Small Business. The small business part of this 501c3 has been largely neglected for a long time. And that is a base part of it being a 501c3. The child advocacy part, I'm getting that figured out. And I have a whole bunch of people helping me out with that. What I need on the board is folks that will help me figure out how to get this solid as a business at a base level and help us grow from there. We've made some big advances in the last, I've been here 11 months, and we made some big advances with that. But just looking for people that see a bigger picture, a longevity picture, and a small business aspect.
Jan, hold on. I love your enthusiasm for this. Hold on just a second. I want to come back and talk about funding, how you go about that, how you can maybe donate, and then those sort of ways to get in touch with your group, whether you know somebody, that young person that needs to be involved or needs help within the legal system, or whether, you just want to be a part of it and volunteer. We'll get that information to everybody after this message.
The most successful investors are those that can keep their emotions in check and take a longer-term view of what portfolios will be worth 3 to 5 years down the road. I'd say that's the most important in determining what investor outcomes are. Market corrections will continue in the future. We've seen many of them over the years, only to see equity prices rise higher, and that'll be the case in the future.
Worth Wealth Management, enhancing lives and strengthening families.
Welcome back to Forward Ever, leading in challenging times, with our guest, Jan Johnson, who's the Executive Director of CASA of the High Plains. And Jan, you've been, I think we figured out now, 11 months at this, kind of trying to turn this program around. It kind of was in a dormant stage for a couple of years, trying to turn it around, trying to make it work as a business, trying to find the right people to be involved. But let me ask this. Funding is so important. How are you going about getting funding to be able to continue this?
So, as probably many of your listeners would know, CASA had a signature event for Valentine's Day, the Valentine's Day dinner. That fell through last year, and of course we didn't hold it again this year. I'm not sure if we're going to try to resurrect that with our low numbers of staff right now. Staff being me, and board is we got 6 on. But we're looking at, we've taken on a number of other fundraisers, smaller fundraisers, but I've sought funding from all the counties. We get funding from all 4 of our county commissioners now. So we serve Ellis, Rooks, Trego, and Gove. So all 4 counties are funding us. United Way funds us hugely. City of Hays. I'm seeking extra funding from the diversion funds from district attorneys. So I'm really researching other CASAs in the state, how they get funding. And I have looked at how CASA in North Carolina gets funding. I've looked at how CASA in Washington State gets funding. I'm looking at everything and seeing if it's anything that I could apply here on a business level to get dollars in. Aside from that, I do apply for just about any grant I can get a hold of. So there's a lot of different ways, but local donations and the folks within these 4 counties that care about this program, that's what I'm going to be seeking and reaching out to. We've got our outfit involved with the Heartland Foundation. We're just got spun up again in that with our last board meeting. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to lead directly to program longevity and show the community that we're in it to win it. We're here to stay. And that will also lead to some, foundational income and show our intention to be around for a while.
You do have a web page if people want to learn more. I think it's CASA High Plains at kansascasa.org. There's a web page. What will they find there? Is it a broad base of information, or is it really focused on the specifics of how you, if you need help, that sort of thing? What will people find there?
Right. So right now, that's just that's the Kansas page. We don't have a website of our own yet. That's one of the things that I'm looking at creating for us. But that email will get you directly to me. But we are looking at being part of the match event with Heartland Foundation in, I believe it's probably October. But any of the events we take, we take checks directly. We take, funding any way we can get it. But you can call or email here.
How do they find you?
Phone number directly is the best way, 785-628-8641, or that CASA High Plains at kansascasa.org is my direct email.
And if you go there, do you also have an office if somebody wants to stop by?
I do, yes. We're actually the only thing on the 2nd floor at the Beaker Insurance Agency. So 107 West 13th here in Hays.
So there's several ways to get in touch with it. And as you see somebody, if somebody is in trouble, as as a parent, a grandparent, and they're saying, this young person needs help. They fit within the guidelines. They're a young person. They've had some legal difficulties. What's the hotline? What's the Help Me Now button? What do they do to get help through CASA?
So if they're already a child in need of care, which is a CINC case, CINC case in court, they should have a guardian ad litem already assigned to the case. So they could request a CASA be assigned to their case through their guardian ad litem. They could call me or email me directly saying, hey, I think this needs to be looked at. What do we need to do to get a CASA involved? There's a number of ways to request a CASA be added onto a case. I've had foster parents call in and request it to me. I've had a pediatrician call in and say, hey, I know this is a CINC case situation, and I'm asking that a CASA be assigned to this case. I take that information and I address it with the judge directly and say, hey, we've been requested on this case. If it's something you think, we should be assigned to, here's the folks that have requested it. So there's a number of ways to go about requesting a CASA on your case.
And is there a cost to that person?
No. CASA doesn't cost anybody anything. And that's one of the big differences in our program is we're not hired by anyone. We're as a standalone. We don't belong to anybody else. We're not a district attorney's outfit. We're not St. Francis Ministries outfit. We're a standalone. So we work in tandem with everyone, but we don't answer to anyone. And there's no cost to families, and we don't get any X amount of dollars for every case we close. There's not any metrics we need to meet in order to satisfy numbers to get paid. We're in it strictly for service to the children, and in tandem with that, service to the families.
You're in it to help, and if you want to volunteer, go to that website at CASA High Plains at kansascasa.com and be able to hook up there and make that happen. Or your phone number once again, Jan?
785-628-8641.
All right. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for sharing your story. And hopefully you've been at it 11 months trying to rebuild and take on the challenges there. That's exactly what this program's about. Thanks for your work so far. And maybe in a year or so, let's catch up and see how it's gone.
That'd be great. Gary, I really appreciate your time.
All right. Jan Johnson, the Executive Director of CASA on the High Plains. Thanks to you for listening to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. Our program has been brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. I'm Gary Shorman.
Thanks for joining us for Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management. Join us right here next week for another episode with host Gary Shorman. Until then, remember to move forward ever, backward never.